All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is William, and I'm going to be your presenter for today's webinar. I've got Amanda currently online as one of our panelists. She's here to help me out with this, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you might have via the Zoom chat. Now, as we do go through, if you do have questions, do feel free to pop them into the chat. I will try to pause and ask any of those where the opportunity, answer any of those where the opportunity presents us the opportunity to do so. But otherwise, Amanda will be there taking care of those. Now, as we get into today's webinar, I did want to just throw out a quick poll just to get started. So that I can better understand everyone who has joined us today and a little bit about your knowledge on Analytics Plus, as that's going to be a big part of what we're going to be covering today. So if you could, if you feel free to just answer that poll that I've just popped up on screen and let us know what your knowledge of Analytics Plus is and where you are sort of sit within your business structure there. Interesting. Okay. Let's give it a bit longer. Wait for a few more answers to come in. All right, that's been about 40. Okay, so that's been about a minute. I'm just going to end that there. That's a good spread. One of you uses Analytics Plus regularly. Most of you haven't seen it before. And we've got a good spread between property managers, team leaders, directors, and administration. All right. Excellent. Well, we are on the agenda for today is basically to discuss a little bit about, say, what a health check is within the system. We're going to dive into the analytics reporting, and we're going to go through some tips and tricks to help you keep your finger on the pulse of the business. With that said, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get underway. Okay, here we go. A little bit ahead of myself there. Now, to start this off, I wanted to talk a little bit more, a bit about, say, what a health check is within the system. We do them all the time as part of the services that we offer across all Reapit products, including Console Cloud. It's part of what the training team does, and you can always contact us if you're interested to know more about that. But when we're doing a health check, what we're looking for in someone's system is not necessarily is there anything wrong, because that's not always the answer we're looking for. It's more just a matter of what are we doing to keep our finger on the pulse, and essentially, what indicators can we see within the system, and can we pull out of the system to make sure that we're not missing anything? And that's a big part of what we're going to be looking at today. And I wanted to start the conversation off by talking more about what's already happening within your Console Cloud systems to make sure that that data that you need is already there. And a lot of that starts with the property manager, probably the most important key part in all of this, because they're the ones that are using the system on a day-to-day basis. And how does a property manager keep tabs on their portfolio in Console Cloud? A lot of that starts with some of the more obvious things, such as an effective dashboard being set up. This can, in its own sense, be a quick health check every time you log in, depending on how you use it. Having the right widgets up front to give you just that heads up information on key things, such as new maintenance requests, arrears numbers, vacant properties that you may want to keep tabs on, as an example. Further to that as well, the workflows that we have developed for Console Cloud are by design there to help keep your database in a healthier state. Take the lease renewal workflow as an example. where the whole purpose behind this workflow is to consolidate what can be quite a lengthy conversation into one section and give you some quick and easy at-a-glance heads-up information to help you manage your lease renewals. With the owner intention, last action, of course, giving us a bit of information, our filters across the top, letting us know what's been coming back in. And then, of course, when we click into these lease renewals, the timeline that's there to help us keep track of them. This kind of workflow design within Console Cloud is there to, again, keep that system healthy. But this is also what we're checking when we're doing a health check. And it's something that, from a property manager's point of view, actively using the workflows should be able to help you keep on top of that to a certain extent. There's always more that we can drill into as well. There are a couple of sleepers within here too, which I do like to point out, in particular for new clients. And that comes down to some of the reports that not everyone pays attention to or are aware that are there. Two of the more obvious ones. So we're going to, for two of the more obvious ones, we're going to jump through to people and tenants. And these are the simple filters that we've got through here that allow us to drill down and say rent reviews. We can come through and have a look at our properties with rent reviews coming up, or all rent reviews within the system coming up within a certain period of time. As you can see with my little training database here, we've only got the one, but it's still in there nonetheless. And a quick report on those properties with no upcoming routine. Doesn't mean there's no outstanding routine there, it just means there's no upcoming routine. And this is a quick and easy one that you can jump into at any time and anyone has access to. There are some other ones through here as well, which I like to highlight, depending on what we're doing with our owners. For those in states where you like to renew your management agreements, got a quick and easy report through here where you can check to see expired management agreements, expiring, and those with no expiry date. Oops, so you can come through and have a bit of a look at those here as well. And finally, one of the other ones, which not everyone has access to, I think there's certain reports in here which obviously would be limited to people with a trust account login, but there are the accounts reports, and quite a few of these property managers can get into and have a look at as well. I'm not going to drill into all of these. These are probably more situational than anything else, but they're good to know about, as there are a few accounts reports in here which can be used on an ad hoc basis to find specific pieces of information. One which I can say I've definitely helped clients with a fair few times is coming through and having a look at the ledger balances in here, finding funds which people had forgotten about, as an example. An easy one to have a bit of a look at any time might be to come through and have a look at what tenants I'm holding funds for in their tenant deposit. Hitting download spits out a quick report for me, which I can then open up, and I can see through here that I'm holding quite a bit of money in my tenant deposits, which is otherwise not being used for anything else. This is not a bad one to keep an eye on, just to make sure that those funds are going where they need to go and they're not getting lost in the system, as an example. So just that's accounts and reports through here. Some good ones to keep an eye on as you go. To give a quick recap, basically what we're saying is that using Console Cloud as it's designed to be used, setting up an appropriate dashboard and making sure that you're using the workflows will go a long way to keeping a healthy database just by design. That said, if we're looking to report on it, that is when we will start to get into our analytics tools. And let's drill down on a few of these. So first things first with analytics. I want to actually go through just an easy reporting tool from here before we get into any of these specialized reports. And that is just this button, top right-hand corner here, download KPI reports. It's something that I'm sure that many of you may be aware of, and it's certainly something that I would recommend having a bit of a look at because it gives you an extract report that you can just select from the list here. And let's go, in this case, rent arrears details, why not? And we can then come through and set the date we want to extract that for. This is a very useful report when I'm looking to get specific sets of information out around a specific reporting date. Potentially I'm looking to do, say, monthly, quarterly, maybe yearly KPIs on on the entire system and just looking to get raw data out. This can be quite a good one. Now I've downloaded a couple already just for demonstration purposes, this one here included, and they all extract just as a Excel spreadsheet. And you can see through here at any time that you do pull this out, and this one was just for today's date, but you can gives us a bit of a heads up with regards to the arrears situations that's there. This is probably, it is more of a data report than anything else, but still nonetheless quite useful. There are other ones which might be more of a summary, such as this one here, which is just giving me summary per property manager, along with the number of properties in arrears, percentages, total days, and total arrears. The sort of thing that you would pull out maybe in a weekly meeting, just to have a bit of a discussion about how everyone's going and what's happening there. And another one here, which is a rent review details report. This one's a really good one because it looks at the lease renewal information and then puts it into a report that I can then come through and work through if I'm looking for something very specific. Oh, I'm going to backtrack ever so slightly. Apologize, team. I have been using Teams too much. Give me a second. All right, to the marketing team, whoever is editing this later, feel free to skip that last little piece that I just went through. So, running it back a bit, well, actually, let's just talk about this. What I apologize, what I was going through was to say, these are some of the reports that I have pulled out of the system, and they present as spreadsheets, as you can see through here. This particular one here, the rent review details one, is probably the one that I wanted to talk about the most because it is the one that is looking at that lease renewals workflow and pulling that out into a spreadsheet that I could then provide to the business or potentially use from a KPI point of view to look at where things are at certain points in time. Without reiterating that too much, I would say get in and have a bit of a look at what you can pull out of there. And it is per office, so do keep that in mind as you go through and have a bit of a look at this. If you are working in a multi-office system where you've got more than one office up the top, this is a good way of looking at KPIs per office. Now, we can recap on that at the end if anyone wants to. Just let us know in chat. All right, so let's now move on to and drill down into some specific analytics reports, because these specific analytics reports that we see through here are the ones which allow us to get very detailed sets of information out. Now, before we go, well, we're going to go through a few different ones, but I want to start with the all properties report. Given there's quite a few people that haven't used analytics before, this is the one that I would recommend you get into first. It has, well, amongst other things, it has reports on all different parts of the system, but it also has some guides built into this particular report here to help you learn how to use analytics. And just while it loads, here we go. So what is Analytics Plus? Analytics Plus is a reporting system that's going to pull data from all attached offices for your login, so it's specifically your login, into a reporting tool. Depending on which one you pick will depend on the kind of information you're getting, and you will see that as we go. In this case, we're looking at the all properties report, and through here, what we're seeing is stats around all the properties we have within our system. As we go down the page, there's some useful graphs and data points through here that we can use for various different purposes. A lot of this can be manipulated as well, and we'll do a bit of that as we go today. Portfolio information and say a bunch of different things, which in all honesty, is the sort of thing you need to get in, have a bit of a look at yourself to learn what you might want to use it for. This particular one, I like to use this as my first report that I show people because, well, for one reason, it's got a wide variety of information. And for the second reason is it's got this info view here. And if you remember nothing else about what we're going through today, okay. All right, so with the info view, So that's this one here. If you let's just scroll down a little bit. It seems to be pulling some information through there. So the info view, what that has in there is it has a bunch of guides which show you how to use analytics. When you click through to that, you'll be able to come through and click on these guides. So it says, well, how do I export this information? Tap on that and it'll give you a pop-up on screen as to how to go through and export that information. You can also through here find other guides on how to adjust timescale, how do you update the graphs, and what we can do is we can come through and go, okay, so that's how that works. And then we can just test it through here, changing what we're seeing on screen. You know, column graph, line graph, are we going to filter by vacant properties or by number of property count, what have you. I recommend coming through here and having a bit of a look at this report because it teaches you how a lot of this works within the system. And there's quite a bit through here we can have a bit of a look at, including right down the very bottom here where it teaches us about pulses. And this is a big part about what I wanted you guys to get out of today, as these pulses within the system are things that we can set up alerts around. Now, I know 27% vacancy rate is ridiculously high, but it's a training database and I've got about 15 properties in here anyway. If I wanted to set up a pulse around this though, this is where I can come through, well, in any one of these reports, come through and add a pulse and create an alert around that. And this I'm going to call Will's vacancy rate, which point I can pop that in and I will get an alert around that. Now we're going to drill into pulses a little bit more as we go, setting up some different ones. But for now, let's go through and actually have a bit of a look at one of the reports we might use for a health check. And I'm going to start with an inspections report. Here we go. All right. Okay, so while this is loading in, let's talk a little bit about what we can do here. So first things first, when it comes to working with analytics reports, on the right-hand side, we have a lot of filters that we can use to manipulate the information we're seeing there. Up the top, we always have a reset to defaults filter as well, which is allowing us to reset what we're seeing on screen back to whatever the default should be. In this particular case, we can see through there, it has just cleared whatever filters were currently being used or previously being used. And we can now see a bit more information about our inspections. Number of inspections that are scheduled. I mean, I've got none due today, but through my little calendar down here, I can see I've got 3 coming up tomorrow and a few coming up next week. And we can see we've got some entry notices that are scheduled to be, have been sent for scheduled ones this week. We've got some breakdowns through here as well. I can see a number of inspections, who's doing those, and we can see through here some information that we may want to pay attention to. I have a rather large group of inspections there with no inspection notice sent. Now that's okay. Quite a lot of those will be a long way into the future, and that's to be expected. But if I wanted to filter down on this and have a bit of a look at, say, overdue inspections or upcoming inspection notices in the next month with no notice sent, that's where I can come through and start to use these filters over here. Or I could through here, maybe I'm going to select this group here. So that's that red bar for those where no inspection notice has been sent. And then I can come over here and maybe I want to have a bit of a look at using one of my filters through here, which will be the scheduled start date filter, at which point I'm going to filter that down on, I'm going to go with this month as an example. Hitting OK is now going to use the analytics report to filter down on all my inspections, or all inspections in both offices where no inspection notice has been sent within this particular month. Currently, I have 13 upcoming inspections that match that particular criteria. Now, if I wanted to see a list of those, I can come back up to the top and hit table. So that's where this says table up the top here. Ooh, there's only one apparently. And we have one inspection in there at Archer Street where no inspection notice has been sent. And I can come through and have a bit of a look at that there. I can see the inspection was created for yesterday. No notice was sent, and it was created yesterday, and it's currently scheduled for next week. All right. Now, one of the things that we could also do with this is potentially having a bit of a look at overdue inspections. So these would be inspections that are scheduled previously. Again, we just want to use these right-hand filters through here to drill down on that information. Scheduled start date would be a good one, would be something I'd look to change here. But instead of going with a calendar window this time around, I'm going to go with a time frame, at which point I want anything that was scheduled in, say, the last 90 days. Coming through here and changing that, that'll let me know of any inspections that were scheduled within the last 90 days. And I specifically want to find those where the entry notice was not sent. So I'm going to go with not applicable. And that there should give me a list of all inspections when no entry notice was sent in the last 90 days. And again, I can come up to the table at the top here where I can then find that information. And if I was looking to extract this from the system, I could now come through to these three dots over here and pull that out as a CSV, a PDF, an Excel file, or an image, depending on how I wanted to use that. And that could be something that you could use to help a team member maybe come up to speed or catch up on inspections that needed to be dealt with. But it allows me, essentially what I wanted to show you here was an option of using this as something that I can use to find specific data sets and then pull them out of the system. And that, just to recap on that, is using the right-hand menu filters through here to narrow down exactly what I'm looking for, and then coming through the table, and this would allow me to pull that out into a spreadsheet that I could then use. All right. Now, now that's one example there. The next one I want to go through is a maintenance request analytics report. Tapping on maintenance from here, this is where we're going to bring up a maintenance request, the maintenance requests or the maintenance workflow analytics report. And what we're going to be looking at here is open maintenance requests, average number of days open, as well as putting together a few pulses around those for ourselves and for some of our team members. Now, this report at a high level, essentially what this report's going through is that it's providing us with information on the number of maintenance requests in the system. That's what it's looking at. And as we go down, we can see some important information. We can see properties with really maintenance requests which are really, really old, which we could use that to drill down on some of those. We've got some maintenance requests over time information through here. We can see, well, I've got a property expenditure for one property there, by portfolio, what portfolio is doing well, but right down and not so well, and right down the very, very bottom, we also have a section called pulses. And pulses is what I want to talk about in this particular case. Because if I wanted to set up some alerts around this, or potentially, and one of the things I'll show you in time is also setting up the option to create my own dashboard around these. This is what I'm talking about. These are the pulses that I'm going to be able to do that with. So starting with open requests, I could create an open request for the office pulse by just coming through here, clicking on the three dots next to the one I want to use, clicking add pulse, and then at the top, we are going to do office open requests. Now, when we set this pulse up, this can be something that goes out on a regular basis. So it could be going out always. So every 24 hours or potentially every certain amount of days. Could be something that's set up on an automatic, which means that on an automatic pulse, which means that it's going to notify me if it detects an anomaly. If all of a sudden we have a spike in open requests, it will send something through to me as a logged in user. Or we could set this up with a threshold. Potentially for my office, I never want more than 100 open maintenance requests. That might work out at, say, a number that works well for my office. which point, while it's over that, it'll send me an alert every 24 hours. Now, adding that into the system means that that pulse is now something that is going to be sent through to me whenever that particular threshold is reached. But potentially, I just wanted something that maybe looks at this per property manager instead. Using our filter over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to come through and I could use property manager or I could use portfolio, depending on how I set my system up. In this case here, I'm going to go with property manager. And coming through here, okay, let's use portfolio instead. Coming through here, I'm going to have a bit of a look at my own portfolio here. Filtering that down is now looking at my portfolio. So we don't have too many. We've got 6 open maintenance requests, 1 urgent, but my problem at the moment, maybe something I want to manage, is the number of days my requests tend to be open. So coming through here, we are going to create a will average days open. This might be something that, in this particular case as well, it may not be something that I want a regular update on. And I'll show you a little bit later how we can turn the notifications off once we've created one. But we're just going to create that one there for now. And potentially if I was in a team leader position, I may choose to do this for multiple portfolios. So we're going to have a bit of a look at Amanda's portfolio now to see if we've got anything in there. And currently seeing nothing. New property manager though, so that's okay. And we're going to add one here for her too. Amanda, average days open, hitting save. And what that's doing is it's remembering the filters that I was using at the time. All right. Now let's just go back to having a look at everyone. Okay. All right. Now those are your pulses, and just quickly and easily setting them up from here. Coming back out to our analytics. So those are 2 individual reports. So that's inspections and maintenance. There's also lease renewals, there's referrals, there's gained and lost vacant properties, and a whole slew of other reports through here that you can have a bit of a look at. The next one I want to have a look at though for you guys though is the data cleanse report. This data cleanse report is an aggregate report that pulls together information from different reports in the system. And there we go. And the information that's getting pulled into here is coming from multiple different reports as we go. Now, up the top, the first one I want to have a bit of a look at here is the compliance report. So we can see, actually, let's just have a bit of a look. So we've got some coming here from the all properties report, compliance report, we've got an owners report, and this compliance report is the first one I want to have a bit of a look at. We can see through here that we have properties without smoke alarm compliance as a heads up stat. Very important one for us to keep track of depending on what states we happen to be in. Well, you have the option to go through to that compliance report by clicking through to it, actually to opening that up in here, that doesn't actually click through to it. And that is then going to allow us to have a bit of a look at that information that's getting pulled in. We can now find that information in here if we need it. So let's just say no smoke alarm compliance. So we can see that there, and that's going to pull that into a graph. All right, let's not wait too long for that. Okay, here we go. And that's pulled that into that graph there. I do apologize for the delay this is taking. It seems like Zoom is causing some issues. Now that we've got that here, we can now download and extract that if we wanted to pull that out to go through that particular list with our team. Hitting download CSV will pull that out into a CSV, or we could go with a PDF depending on what we needed. Now let's close that there. Also, I want to mention, so we've kind of closed that And now I also want to mention that this particular widget can be added to our pulses. Clicking on the three dots, coming through to add to pulse, and up the top, we can pop through a new pulse with regards to this. This might actually be the sort of pulse where I want this to be 1. So if at any point this is greater than or equal to 1, I want to hear about it, because there should never be any within my system. At which point I could pop that in and I'll get that report. Another one in here I quite like, if we come down a little bit further, we can see in here we've got a rent review report. And this one here has a widget in here, active properties without a rent recommendation. Again, looking at the rent reviews. I'll pop this one into my system here as well, at which point I might pop that one in at a 1, whatever I think is applicable, and that can go there. Additionally, just a reminder, of course, you can click in and review that particular report, and that'll bring that up on screen for you, pulling in that information. And look at that, a couple of nice ones in here. Now, this has another pulse, which I quite like, properties without rent reviews. It's certainly something I want to keep track of within my database, making sure that I'm keeping on top of that list. So that's there just giving me a number, but of course I could come through and using the filters on the right-hand side, figure out which one of those properties those are. And we just need to find the rent review filter, and we'll be able to pull that in, and we can obviously add this to a pulse as well, which I'm going to pop in there. This should also never be higher than 1. Finally, let's have a look at where we can find all of our pulses. So we've set up quite a few of them. And actually, before we do, just one thing before we do. So we've got the data cleanse report through here. That's looking at a bunch of data sets that we think that you could find useful for keeping a finger on the pulse of your system. The other thing, there are some other ones through here you can use as well. We have my monthly reports through here, does very much the same thing. There's some business KPI reports through here as well, which look at aggregate data across a lot of different aspects as well. And this is certainly worthwhile coming through and familiarizing yourself with. Across the top, we now are going to have a look at our pulses, just to wrap up. Now, this dashboard, we've built this out as we've been going through today. It's got a few different types in here. We've got our active properties without recommendations there. We've got Amanda's average days, maintenance request, average days open. We've got my average days open through there, and you can sort of see how it's sorting alphabetically. So if you did set up a number of different ones in different people's names, you'd be able to easily find them through here. And we can obviously from here set up and configure a few of these as well. So with this one here, maybe I don't want that to send me a notification every day with regards to that. I do have the option from the little burger icon here to come through and turn off notifications. I can also come through here and duplicate these. So if I needed to create a second one, but maybe change the data set a little bit, I could do that. And I can come through and edit these where I can change how often that sends out and a few of the other things around that particular pulse as well. Of course, this is also my own dashboard. So like the data cleanse report, where that's something that we've put together for you, we think you might find that useful. If you put together your own pulses, that's where this becomes your report. Each one of these in here, if I wanted to go through and have a look at where that information is coming from these 3 dots, sorry, actually just next to these 3 dots up here, I've got this open dashboard where that's going to take me through to that particular report, and I can find more information out about that from there as well. So that's coming from the data cleanse report, of course. Yeah. In a sense though, the Pulse dashboard in here is something that you can configure as a team leader, an owner, a business administrator for your particular business, where you can track key stats that are useful for you. Team leader might look after their team. A business owner may want to have more information, or say an office manager may want to have more information about properties without rent reviews or smoke compliance, depending on what is valuable to you. You may want to have the whole lot. It's up to you, of course. All right. With that said, though, that was everything we wanted to run through with you today. And was there any? Ah, Steph, I assume you've seen me go through it a few times there, but just to reiterate, Steph did ask how do we get into the Pulse view, and that is just from Analytics on the left-hand side, and you've got Pulse here sitting on the front page of the Analytics, just as a tab. All right. With that said, that's everything we wanted to go through with you today. Thank you all for jumping on and joining us for today's session. I'm hoping you found something useful out of it. Just as a quick recap, I wanted just to reiterate that workflows are by design, if followed, designed to keep your system healthy. But of course, we've also got analytics to help you drill down on that information, and setting up a system of pulses within your system allows you to have an at-a-glance report that you can come back to and see what matters to you. And you have quite a bit of control over how they work, which I think is really cool.